for a second and let you know that you really should stick with this one. If you watched the first one, I talked about how Harmon Museum is full of antiques, and each of those antiques carry a residual energy. And in turn, that residual energy permeates out into the air, and that inside of the museum itself, it acts as a huge capacitor of just charged energy from the residual items and the intelligent spirits that are there. And that any spirits that exist within this museum use that extra energy to manifest, to speak, to just power themselves. And in this video, what ends up happening is Patrick had got a feeling earlier from the carriage room. So we go back to the carriage room to start a ghost box and deadwave session. And our session's actually interrupted by the director of the place, who has quite a bit of knowledge about the paranormal happenings that happen within the building. And he stops and he talks to us for about 25 minutes, and he starts telling us about different apparitions that have been seen in the building, different sounds that have come out. I mean, he talks about a woman spirit that they saw, the disembodied head of a full apparition of a man that somebody saw in the carriage house, voices being said, people's names being called, laughter happening in the building. And the whole situation with him coming in is extraordinary, because he sort of verifies some of the theories that I have, and at the same time he lets us know, the intelligent spirits that we're picking up on there are actually there. He validates some things. So when you check this video out, just give it a hard look and a hard listen, and you'll see some really cool things happening here, and it sort of just helps build on the lore of the Harmon Museum. Alright, this is our second part of our day investigation at Harmon Museum. We're inside the carriage room. Patrick, on his walkthrough, said he felt the sound. He sounded like he felt that people were, just tell it, I'm stumbling over my words.
That's fine, yeah. I felt like there was a bunch of people in here walking around and talking and just having a party, almost, it sounded like. And then when I walked in here, there was nobody in here, and I thought for sure it was staff.
Okay.
Something that works here.
And on past investigations, I've actually felt some things in here, so those things jive. We've got a static recorder going to record the background noise. We're going to run the dead wave app, and we also we have another recorder running for the length of the entire investigation here today. Ready when you are.
So I was down here earlier, and I heard a bunch of people in here. Were you having a party? You heard that whisper?
Yeah. It's always a whisper. Now, is there someone here that we should know about? Somebody just came in the building. Do you have a name? What was that?
Sid?
Are one of these your carriages? Hey, how are you doing, sir?
You're in the space. A friend of mine who started the ghost tours in Waynesville, an author, came out of the kitchen. He was doing research in the library.
Yeah.
Out of his peripheral vision here, he caught the sight of a figure. A taller man, kind of lean in gray and black. Then he turned, because he didn't know anybody was in the museum. We were some of the first people in on last Tuesday a week.
Yes.
And he turned and looked, and the man had no head.
What?
He had no head. The body was here, and then he looked again, and he disappeared.
Oh, wow. And that was here?
It was right here?
Denny says he always gets a creepy feeling in this state.
Well, tell him why you were.
Well,
I'll keep you off the video.
When I was initially down here, I was standing right over there looking at something, and out of the corner of my ear, I kept hearing like it sounded like a bunch of people in here walking around and talking and everything.
Uh-huh.
So I thought it was staff. So I just kept on looking at my stuff, and I said, okay, it quit. Everything just stopped, you know. So that kind of like brought to my attention, like, well, maybe it wasn't staff, you know what? It just stopped so quick. So I came in here and looked, and there was nobody in here, and that's the whole reason. Like I said, well, you need to hit this
We've
area.
had 3 incidents since I've taken over as director in March. One was a genuine breach of security. A young lady had been in here with her friend, and they'd unlocked the door and came back about midnight, didn't realizing, I think they wanted to steal something out of the gift shop, and it was an alley door, and it was closed enough that the sensor was still engaged, but of course the minute they opened it, all hell broke loose. So the next time that was around 1 o'clock in the morning. I got a call from Homeland Security about 3 in the morning, maybe quarter after 3:30. I thought it was really weird for somebody to be pilfering something. And they said, I had all the motion sensors in here reactivated because some of them had been shut off because we used to have a cat in here.
Oh, that's cool. He probably had a blast.
Anyway, we had all the motion sensors turned back on, and she says, we've detected movement in the museum. I thought, oh shit, is it a bat or a bird? What is it? And she didn't tell me what zone it was in. She said there's just movement. So I came down and went through this creepy old place with a flashlight. I'll not do that again.
Really?
No, because there's too damn many places. If it was an intruder, for somebody to hide, they could whack you on the head and you'd be here till morning.
Yep.
But the other thing is, so that happened, and we never did figure out what caused it. But there was movement. But one morning, very early, it was raining. I came in, my office is in the front, and I knew Hazel Spencer Phillips, who founded this place. And I was walking across the green, I turned all the lights on, and that front of the building was dark, and as I said, it was raining. And I said, and this is during the pandemic, so it was just Jeannie and I were the only 2 people in here for like 5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
None of the other staff was coming in, and it wasn't open to the public. I walked toward that door. Now the room to the left used to be Hazel's office. My office is on the right. But as I was approaching that arch, I said, "Good morning, Hazel," and a woman laughed. There was nobody in here. I went to the front windows. There wasn't a living soul on Broadway. There was no car, there was nobody, and it was in the pitch of Hazel's voice.
And which area was this?
It was, I stood right in front of that arch, and I said, "Good morning, Hazel," and the laugh came from the front there, one of those 2 front rooms.
So can I tell you, I've investigated here multiple times.
Yeah.
With like shadow hunters and them. That front area up there, I've picked up a clear voice of a woman on my digital recorders, and she's prominent. And we are in here just sort of getting more evidence to put like a file together on an intelligent spirits here. And we got the name of Gretchen. You ever heard that name?
Not heard of Gretchen.
Yeah.
No.
But it's interesting that you say that because that woman is predominantly located over here.
Well, a story that Dennis told me, and Dennis is 78. He just comes in once in a while to do research. He's written a couple books. But anyway, he said that when the museum was here in the mid-60s.
Oh, it's been around for a while.
They were doing a program here. Well, see, what happened was, the building, this part of the building, this is a basketball court.
Oh, really?
This building was built in 1913 by Mr. Harmon as a gift. Mr. Harmon was born in Lebanon, and he invented something called the subdivision. He had the largest real estate company in the world, and he built a little thing in New York called Brooklyn. He had more money than God.
What?
Yes. So when Mr. Carnegie, his friend, built the library, Mr. Harmon put the books and the furniture in. And for Lebanon, he built a park, and he had Olmsted design it, the man who designed Central Park.
Really?
He designed Harmon Park and Golf Course.
I didn't know that.
No way.
Yeah, Frederick Law Olmsted. He was in Dayton designing the NCR complex that's all been torn down. But anyway, I even have the letter where he sent a doctor from Lebanon to get Mr. Olmsted to bring him down, pay him $500, show him the land, and buy him a modest lunch. He was a cheapskate.
Modest
Anyway,
lunch.
Harmon in 1913 bought this property. There was an old tavern here. They tore it down. It was toward the front. It's not in the footprint of the building. It was right off on the street. Built this as an early YMCA before there were YMCAs.
Oh, wow.
This was a gym. The bleachers were up there. Well, you can still see it's all maple flooring.
Oh wow, yeah. Oh, there goes the.
Yes.
The front room to the right was used for cards. My office was the smoking room.
Really?
Upstairs was the pool room.
Really?
Downstairs was a 2-lane bowling alley.
That explains the length of it. Yeah.
Over here was a Turkish bath.
Really?
Over there was a weight room, and there were lockers.
Wow.
And this was in that way until, let's see, he died. The last thing he brought out, he came to Lebanon in 1928, and he presented the portrait of his mother, which hangs up there, to another facility here in Lebanon.
Which one? The one that on the far left?
Right. The big. That's the only full-length portrait.
Oh yeah, the last name is Harmon too. Yeah.
That's his mother. So he brought it out, and he had bought a home in town that was called the Molly Harmon Home for his mother.
That sounds familiar.
It's up on Warren Street on the corner, and it was done for indigent ladies as they got older and so forth and so on. Well, obviously we inherited the portrait. He presented the portrait, went to Cincinnati, had a slight heart attack, went back to his home in Southport, Connecticut, and died.
Oh.
This place stayed on money set up by Mr. Harmon in something called the Harmon Civic Trust. Well, it got too much for them to handle. Hazel had started the museum in Glendower Mansion. It outgrew the mansion, and so in 1960, the Civic Trust said, "We'll give you the building." So they moved down here and started all of this. So, and then they turned Glendower over to the state. Now we own it now. It came back to us. But that's what they did. They transformed this. Now when Dennis said in the 60s, they were having a program in this room, and there were doors on that archway, like the ones to my office. There was a lady who was sitting. They didn't have that little desk thing. There was just a simple table there. She was looking that way, and the hall wraps around and you can go downstairs. There were some people in here in old-fashioned, they were having like an old-fashioned costume show.
Okay. The colonial era?
Yeah. So, or Victorian, whatever.
I mean.
But anyway, they were here, and the program was going on. Well, the lady looked up, and standing over in Hazel's office was this woman in black. And she had a high ruffle collar, and she had a kerchief out of her sleeve. And all of a sudden, she goes through the door that we've now plexiglassed off, and the woman saw her and thought, "Oh, the poor dear has lost. She's trying to find her way in here." So she jumped up and went down the hall, and the woman wasn't anywhere. And none of the people in here were dressed in black.
See, this is.
And so Denny said, "Did you know the story of the woman in black?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, that's what's going on." And then now he saw, because he's always told me that stable creeps him out for some reason.
It's what?
Creeps him out. He says he just doesn't like the feeling in that stable. But he said he came to me. He's a big guy, and he came to me to my office, and he was white as a sheet, and he'd been doing research here. He simply went in there to get a cup of coffee. He said, "You and I are the only two people besides Jeannie who's downstairs." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I just saw something."
And he saw a man with no head in there.
He saw a man right there. He had like gray trousers and a black coat. And then he caught him out of his peripheral vision, and he turned to look at him. And he was startled because he looked at the form. He said he could see his hands. He had no head. And then all of a sudden, Denny kind of shook himself and looked again, and it was gone.
So it was going from it. He was staring directly at it, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
just.
Yeah, just gone. So, I mean, it's just, there's been some really creepy, it's like, we found this morning, and I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Jeannie came to me and she said, who burned the carpet? I said, what do you mean, who burned the carpet? The only person in here was a cleaning lady, and her vacuum doesn't get hot enough to burn the carpet. On the carpet, as you go down to the archaeology room, there's a burn pattern. Looks like somebody's foot stepped on the carpet. It wasn't there. I went down
Can we see it?
Yeah, I went down that staircase when I left the building last night.
That's interesting.
When I leave, I usually go down about 3:30 and sit at the other desk. Well, I come down from my office. You see that pattern?
Oh wow.
There was nothing on that carpet last night.
Let me go look at
See
that.
that?
And Jeannie was in here
What was that?
yesterday
It was me.
Oh.
working with the archaeology. But if you put your finger on that, it feels like it's been burned. See, it looks
Oh, I
like
see it.
it looks like a
The
pattern.
outline of a shoe.
Yeah. Now what the hell? We've had no workmen in here. I've got these shoes, Jeannie's got tennis shoes. We have no idea, but it wasn't there yesterday morning.
Looks
And
like a
there's nobody
pattern.
been in here.
It's a little wet too, or it feels wet.
It feels wet.
Yeah, I think she tried to clean it because remember we were coming over
She
here.
probably did.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to figure out what the hell did that. But that looks like the carpet has literally been melted.
Wow.
Yeah, that's definitely
Huh.
some heat was applied to there.
And there's nothing, the only fellow in here was Dr. Baird. He's been working in the archaeology room. There have been no visitors down the staircase. There's been no repairman. And the dog wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So, and I can't imagine a vacuum would have gotten that hot.
No.
Right, no.
There's no cleaning agent she would have used that would have done that.
What would have
Let
put?
me ask you, like, years ago, was there ever a fire in this building?
No,
Years ago?
no, not here. But Jeannie came to me and she said, what is that? And I said, I haven't the foggiest. Because it wasn't here yesterday.
Huh.
That's very interesting.
And we left the building at 4 o'clock. I left a little early because I went to see my mother in a nursing home. But that was the extent of it.
It looks like you'd see more of it, you know? Like
Well,
it'd be
that's
more...
the whole thing. But
I'm going to be
it
the dork
almost
here.
looks like somebody, was
Yeah.
going up. But I can't figure out what that is.
It's nothing really from like a.
It almost looks like a pattern on a workman's boot.
Yeah, that's what it
It
reminds
does.
me of, or like a tool that would get hot.
Yeah. But why would you have a hot tool on the staircase?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Is there maybe something down here that resembles it?
No.
No, you'd be
and
looking all day.
I mean, you could be here all day. And
Yeah.
These farm equipment stuff looks like instruments of torture.
Yeah, they
But
do.
whatever it was, to do that to the carpet, it would have to have been heated.
Right.
That's the thing that makes no sense.
Right.
And if you had heated it, it would have set off the sensors.
Yeah.
Because we have sensors in here that monitor the temperature variations.
Oh, where'd that come from?
Nice.
Yeah. It's just really weird.
Huh.
So there's a.
She
So-
brought me in this morning, she says, what happened to the carpet? I said, what do you mean, what happened to the carpet? Because she turns the lights on in the morning, operating, not,
So this is interesting. I didn't.
It's just bizarre, and little things like that. There was one other thing, and I can't remember what it was, but Jeannie and I kind of laughed it off.
Well, I feel like we've got validation on two intelligent spirits
Yeah.
because my friend ran into a grumpier man who was like sort of. I don't remember exactly what went on,
Right.
but we've had a few psychics in here and mediums, and she ran into a grumpier man up in the Quaker or the Shaker or whatever area.
Probably so.
And then that's starting to make sense with the man that we're sort of seeing in that cottage area.
Yeah.
Or not the cottage, but
The
the
stable?
in the stable area.
I told Dennis, I said, the only thing that's really gonna kind of freak me out is if we see a head floating around.
Yeah.
trying to find the body. I mean, you know,
And then with the woman, there seems to be a very strong case that there is some kind of intelligent woman spirit over there.
the interesting thing is, though, is I was describing, as Dennis was describing the way the woman looked,
Hmm.
if you look at Molly Harmon's portrait, she's dressed in black.
Black.
So,
And
That's
the
what we were
other-
looking at upstairs.
That's what we're-
other portraits are not in black.
see, but we thought she was wearing white, but we saw a woman in a bigger
Puffy
dress.
dress.
And the funny part is, we got the name Gretchen.
Yeah.
While it's not Molly Harmon's name, we think the artist who painted the portrait's name is Gretchen.
No.
It's Bertram.
No.
It isn't?
It took me 4.5 years to find out.
Okay.
Her name. It's now posted up there.
So there's a
It's Gertrude.
that's the name. So we're thinking,
Gertrude Briggs, and you know how she was related, which
How?
is really weird. Mr. Harmon's daughter married a Briggs. The Briggs that painted the portrait was his sister, so it would have been Mr. Harmon's daughter's sister-in-law. Okay, we've got correspondence between Mr. Harmon and Mrs. Briggs. The picture, that portrait was done from a photograph he had of his mother, knowing that he was going to bring it out here and give it to the Molly Harmon home. In the interim, because it's hard to make the signature out, we couldn't figure out who painted it. And I said, it's got to come from New York. He had to bring it out here with him. So going through the archive in the vault, I realized that Mary Harmon Briggs divorced her husband by the time the painting was done. And when Mr. Harmon brought it out here, he was so Victorian and conservative, even though it was 27, 28, he didn't want to bring up the fact that they had been divorced. That would be a shame. So in any of the press releases, nothing says that was painted by Briggs. Because it was by his daughter's ex-sister-in-law, and he didn't want to bring the divorce up. She later went to Arizona and founded the Phoenix Art Museum.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot. Wow.
Briggs.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting what you told us about the New York, the
Did
connection
you
with
go
New York.
and find anything yet?
Actually, we've gotten a lot of validation from just talking to him. Some of the places we were already keyed in on, he came and was like, yeah, this just happened here.
Yeah.
The woman in the front of the building that I have like a relationship with, I've heard her voice and things like that, and she's very prominent. We're coming to find out that there's multiple
Yeah.
cases of that. Where the
Well, it could be Hazel's downstairs. I know that. Because she laughed.
downstairs,
I
which,
knew her
yeah,
laugh. I knew her since I was like 7 years old.
How about the headless guy though?
That's what I just told him about.
that's where he ran into us because he had picked up something over there where he thought he heard chatter.
I thought I heard a bunch of people in there talking. I just thought staff. So I didn't go over that way. And then it just like that, it just stopped. I was, that's weird. Everybody just stopped talking, so I went ahead and went over there and looked, and there was nobody in there.
Now see, a lot of times my
Jeez, I didn't know there was that much of a. Wow.
What do you think about that? The woman. I mean, they got somebody on the first
What do
floor.
you mean you pick up white? Or she had a white dress before. I mean,
That could be psychological. The whole thing could be psychological.
Not necessarily just because she's seen in black doesn't mean she can't be seen in another color.
That's very true. Yeah, you're right because we're trying to hard line what we see and how to match things up.
Right,
When in reality, she could be wearing something that she wanted to wear.
right.
But I very much believe that in terms of that intelligent spirit energy of a woman over here, we've got concrete evidence now.
Right.
I mean, that's how I feel. And then when dealing with this carriage house, we've got concrete evidence now. I mean, he saw a headless apparition
Almost whole.
to the point where it was a complete manifestation. And there's a psychological condition with that. I forgot the name of it, but where you see in a waking condition or a tired condition, you see spirits. This man was working and he saw it over here. So I would assume, I'm not gonna not assume, but I feel like we got good evidence that there's something here too of a man. Because I'm telling you, I've come through here before and done medium walks, and this place always makes me stop.
Right here.
So we've